1995 was a rough year for Japan. On January 17, 1995, the Great Hanshin earthquake shook the country and killed more than 6,000 people. A few months later, the Tokyo subway sarin gas attacks took place, killing 13, severely injuring 50, and causing health problems for at least 1,000 others. Then, a few months after that, several women were shot to death in an apparent robbery gone wrong at the supermarket they worked for. This horrific attack came to be known as the Hachiouji supermarket robbery murders. On July 30th, 1995, the local Bon festival was taking place in Hachiouji, just outside the Nanpei supermarket. This small, locally run supermarket wasn't usually open on Sundays, but on this particular day it was, to coincide with the festival. It was also on the final of a 3-day sale, meaning the store safe on the second floor office held considerably more money than usual. The store was scheduled to close at 9 p.m, right as the Bon festival outside would be in full swing. Yet a series of unfortunate events would see 3 supermarket staff murdered, and thanks to the noise of the festival outside, no one would notice when it happened. Inagaki Noriko, 47 years old, and Yabuki Megumi, 17 years old, were the only remaining staff working when the store closed at 9 p.m. Yabuki's school friend, Maeda Tomomi, 16, was also at the store with them. She also worked part-time at the supermarket, and although it was her day off, she came in to see her upcoming schedule and to wait for Yabuki to get off so they could head to the festival outside together. After closing at 9 p.m, the 3 women exited the store, locked the front door, then walked around the back to the dark parking lot. Here, a set of stairs led to the office and changing room upstairs, which also held the safe that Inagaki was tasked with putting the day's earnings into. She was one of the few supermarket employees who knew the code, and the usual procedure saw her putting the day's earnings in at the end of the night, and then the boss showing up in the morning to collect them. The safe was locked both with a code and a key, which she was in possession of. Inagaki's male friend received a call from her at 9:15 p.m, right after the drum performance outside had ended. They had a dinner date, so he drove the short distance over to pick her up. Yet he waited and waited, and she didn't come downstairs. The lights were still on in the office, but he didn't want to enter the room because it also doubled as a changing room for the female staff. He walked to the restaurant they planned to have dinner at, told the female owner what was going on, and she went back to check with him. Inside, they found the dead bodies of Inagaki, Yabuki, and Maeda. All 3 had been shot to death. Police investigations tracked several suspicious men hanging around the supermarket on the day of the Bon festival. The supermarket did have security cameras, but they weren't the type that recorded footage. They could only be watched by someone in the room at that time, so they were of no help. By interviewing various witnesses and shoppers, they were able to put together a rough timeline of what went down. At 6:30 p.m, the Bon festival started outside. Thousands of people swarmed to watch singing, dancing, and drum performances. If someone wished to carry out a crime unnoticed, this was the perfect night to do it. At 6:50 p.m, Maeda arrived at the supermarket to check her upcoming shifts. Customers overheard her talking with Yabuki about how she would wait until her shift was over so they could attend the festival together. By 8 p.m, the store was mostly empty, so Inagaki closed her register. At 8:30 p.m, a strange man was seen wandering around the store without buying anything. Around the same time, another local came in to buy some ice cream and had a chat with Inagaki before leaving. This customer is believed to be the last person who saw all three women alive. At 9 p.m, Inagaki closed the store and all three entered the office on the second floor. Inagaki placed the day's takings into the safe. There was reportedly over 5 million yen inside it. Inagaki and Yabuki then both got changed out of their uniforms, and at 9:03 p.m, the drum performance started outside. At this same time, a suspicious man was seen again in the dark parking lot. It's unknown whether this was the same man seen loitering around the store. He reportedly hid his face when a car drove by and shone its headlights on him. At 9:15, the drum performance ended and Inagaki called her male friend. Then, only 2 minutes later, a couple of high school students who were walking nearby reported hearing 5 loud bangs, like gunshots. They shrugged them off as coming from the festival and continued on their way. A few minutes after that, Inagaki's friend showed up, and he waited for 20 minutes before going to the restaurant owner and getting her to enter the office with him. The police initially suspected that this was a robbery gone horribly wrong. Yabuki and Maeda were discovered lying in the middle of the room, their hands bound with tape. Whoever committed the crime wanted these two out of the way. Both were then shot once in the head each. Inagaki was found slumped next to the safe. She had been shot twice in the head, and the safe shot once, which led police to believe that this was what the criminal was after. He presumably threatened Inagaki to open it, knowing that it would be loaded with the supermarket's takings from the last 3 days. But when she refused, he killed her and hightailed it out of there. Yet, further investigations cast doubts upon this. A string of robberies had been taking place up and down National Route 16 in the months leading up to the Bond Festival, and there was a ton of money in the safe. But something about the case seemed off, like it was only staged to look like a robbery. Police soon began to suspect that Inagaki was the actual target all along, and Yabuki and Maeda were simply in the wrong place at the wrong time. Digging into Inagaki's history brought up some interesting facts. She had formerly worked in Tokyo as a successful hostess before she opened her own snack bar. She eventually left that job behind because she wished to work in elderly care, and while she was working at the supermarket, she was also studying for her new career. Inagaki knew all sorts of shady characters from her long and colourful career, and they began to suspect that one of them may have had it out for her. But who? And why? Police pursued numerous suspects over the years, arresting many but ultimately never being able to pin the crime on any of them. One man was harassed by police for decades because he was a close acquaintance of Inagaki's, and they found photos of him shooting at a gun range in Hawaii. Gun crimes were rare in Japan at the time, almost exclusively the work of Yakuza, so the police latched onto the only thing they could. They were never able to pin it on the man, and he even had an airtight alibi for the time of the murders, having dinner elsewhere at the time with friends. But police needed to solve this case bad, and they were relentless in their pursuit of him. Matters became even more confused when a Japanese Yakuza member arrested in China claimed to have knowledge of the Hachiouji murders. He claimed it was a Chinese citizen living in Canada who had killed them. It took police 10 years to finally extradite the man on forged passport charges, but when they questioned him about the murders, he clammed up and never said a word. He fit the bill. He was skilled with guns, and he had formerly worked at an iron works in Japan. Iron powder was found in the criminal's footsteps in the office. Yet, with no confession and no hard evidence tying him to the crime, police were unable to do anything. He served his time in Japanese prison and was then deported back to Canada. Police matched a partial fingerprint found on the tape bounding Yabuki and Maeda to a man in his 60s from Tama, a city close to Hachiouji. Yet, the prints were only partial, and his DNA didn't match up with that found at the scene either. Plus, he was already dead, so even if he had been involved, there was little the police could do. Many criticized the police over the flimsy evidence connecting this man to the crime, however, and being that he was already dead, the police quietly moved on. To this day, nobody knows who killed the 3 women from Nanpei Supermarket in Hachiouji. The case is still open, and although the supermarket was knocked down, you can still find a billboard erected in the now parking lot, asking anyone for details that might help solve this crime 25 years later. I definitely recommend checking out Kaihan Volume 1 for more of the finer details of this case, because it's massive and the investigation has been open and unsolved for decades now. But what do you guys think really happened? Let me know in the comments below, and I'll see you again next time.